Filipinos are the friendliest people on earth. It's the ultimate tourism clickbait. It's in every Reddit thread, every expat Facebook group, and every department of tourism brochure. And look, as a Filipina, part of me just wants to smile and say, Salamat, and take the compliment. But the other part of me, she's seen the parts of this culture that don't make it into the highlight reels. The parts where that friendliness has a very specific set of terms and conditions. Today, we're going beyond the smile. We're looking at the data, the psychology of Hiya, and the uncomfortable reality of colonial mentality to answer one question. Are we actually the friendliest people, or are we just the best at performing it? Hi guys, it's Dee and welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into the two Filipinos theory and why your experience here might be a psychological byproduct of the 16th century, let's make our relationship official. If you appreciate the no sugarcoating version of life in the Philippines, hit that subscribe button. It's free, it's friendly, and unlike some things we're discussing today, it comes with zero hidden conditions. And for those of you who want to support the research and the occasional caffeine addiction that fuels these deep dives, check out my YouTube memberships or Patreon. My patrons are officially my favorite foreigners, and yes, that is me being biased, but at least I'm being honest about it. Now let me start with saying this. I genuinely love Filipino people. That's actually why I'm making this video. Because when you actually love a culture, you don't just repeat the flattering parts, you're honest with it. So today we're debunking, or at least seriously complicating, the idea that Filipinos are the friendliest people on earth. Not to attack, not to shame, just to give you a more complete picture, if that makes sense. And if this video gets me ratioed by a mob of Filipinos in the comments, well, that's kind of going to prove my point. Let's start with the data because yes, there are surveys and yes, the Philippines does rank high. The Internation's Expat Insider Survey, one of the biggest global survey of expats, ranked the Philippines second in the world for ease of finding friends in 2024. In 2026, the Philippines is still in the top 4, and 4 out of 5 expats respondents said they felt welcome and at home in the Philippines, and 69% said it's not difficult to connect with Filipinos. Just this month, literally days before I'm filming this, a Remitly survey of 4,600 people across 26 countries came out, and the Philippines ranked 6th most polite country in the world and 8th friendliest. The Brand Finance Global Soft Power Index 2026, Philippines ranked 22nd globally for friendliness. So the data is real, right? The reputation is real, and I'm not here to tell you Filipinos are secretly rude people. That's not my point at all. My point is, real data doesn't tell the full story, and there are 3 things these surveys almost never account for. The first thing nobody unpacks is this. There are 2 very different Filipino experiences depending on where you encounter us. Filipino number 1, the Overseas Filipino. If you've met Filipinos for the first time outside of the Philippines, whether that's in the US, the Middle East, Australia, Europe, Canada, you've met a very specific version of Filipino culture. You've met people who are often highly educated, highly motivated, often in service or healthcare or domestic work, far from home, and relying on community and warmth to survive in a foreign place. OFWs, or Overseas Filipino workers, have been described globally as diligent, cheerful, and easy to get along with. And that reputation is genuinely earned, but it's also shaped by the conditions they're in. They can't afford to be difficult. They're guests in someone else's country. And that version of Filipino friendliness, real, consistent, beautiful even. Filipino number 2 is the Filipino in the Philippines. Now, go to the Philippines, walk into a government office, try to get a refund at a grocery store, and watch how the staff at a fast food counter treats a fellow Filipino versus a foreigner who walks in. Notice the difference. Now, here's where it gets interesting because this isn't just about hypocrisy. There's actual, documented psychology behind why Filipinos behave this way. Filipino psychology, or Psikolohiyang Pilipino, has been studied seriously since the 1970s, primarily through the work of Dr. Virgilio Enriquez, considered the father of Filipino psychology. And what he found was a layered system of values that foreigners almost always misread. First is Hiya, often translated again as shame, but it's more nuanced than that. Hiya pertains to one's dignity and self-worth and has been associated with the idea of saving face or avoiding the loss of face, shame, humiliation. It's based on the notion that individuals need to represent themselves and their family in the most honorable way. What does this mean in practice? It means Filipinos are trained from childhood to be agreeable in public, to not cause a scene, to not embarrass themselves or their family. When a foreigner asks for a help and a Filipino smiles and goes out of their way, that's partly genuine warmth, partly hiya, and they cannot lose face by seeming unhelpful or rude. Next is pakiki sama, literally get along with. Pakiki sama is often interpreted as having an interpersonal relationship where people are friendly with each other, making the other feel welcome, safe, and nurtured. The word connotes a willingness to yield to the decision of the majority, tied to the need for Filipinos to be socially accepted by their peers. Again, beautiful in intention, but what this means in practice is that Filipinos are socialized to go along, to accommodate, to not disrupt social harmony. That's not the same thing as genuine warmth. That is sometimes the performance of warmth to preserve peace. And here's the critical part. Non-Filipinos may view Filipinos as conformative and other-oriented because of the visibility of these accommodative surface values. Pakikisama, hiya, and utang na loob, which is debt of gratitude, but neglecting to view these in relation to confrontative surface values like bahala na, pakikibaka, and lakas ng loob only paints a picture of submissive Filipinos. Translation, what you're seeing when you call Filipinos the friendliest people on earth is the surface layer. You're not seeing the whole person. Now we need to talk about the uncomfortable one. Colonial mentality. Again, the Philippines was colonized by Spain for over 300 years. Then the Americans, and that history doesn't just disappear. It lives in the culture, quietly and deeply. Colonial mentality is defined as a form of internalized oppression characterized by a perception of ethnic or cultural inferiority that is believed to be a specific consequence of centuries of colonization. Colonial mentality involves Filipinos believing that they are inferior to Westerners, which makes it difficult for many Filipinos to stand up for themselves. This manifests in everyday ways you might not even notice as a foreigner. The lighter skin preference, the deference to white or Western visitors, the way a foreigner at a restaurant gets served faster, the way a local security guard is strict but waves through the American, the way a Filipino will proudly say, "My friend is American," like it raises their status. This isn't me making this up either. This is documented in academic literature across Filipino psychology, ethnic studies, and cross-cultural communication. So part of what gets labeled friendliness to foreigners is actually a colonial hangover. You're not just popular, you're benefiting from a century-long psychological conditioning. That said, people who look like you are superior and treating them well reflects on us. And sorry to burst your bubble, but I would not necessarily consider this as friendship. That's a wound dressed up as hospitality. Now this is the part I find most honest to talk about, and it's going to resonate with every long-term expat watching this. Filipino friendliness, genuine, generous, overwhelming Filipino friendliness, comes with a condition. And the condition is, you must agree with us. More specifically, if you come to the Philippines, embrace everything about the culture. Praise the food, praise the people, praise the country. You will be treated like royalty. Filipinos will go out of their way for you. They'll feed you. They'll invite you to family events. They'll take you to places that aren't in any guidebook. And that is real, and I'm not dismissing that. But the moment you say something critical, the food is too salty, it's too oily, the traffic is a mess, why do Filipinos do this particular thing? Watch what happens. Seeing the Philippines labeled the friendliest country can feel strange, even uncomfortable for many locals themselves. The social media pile-ons are real, the comment sections are real, the go back to your country brigade is real. You see, what looks like friendliness is, in many cases, conditional acceptance. You are welcomed as long as you play the role of the grateful, admiring outsider. The moment you shift out of that role, the warmth has somewhere to go, and where it goes is not pretty. This is actually consistent with the Hiya and Pakiki Sama framework. The social contract is, I extend warmth, you extend admiration. When you break the contract, the shame lands on the community, and the response is not a dialogue. It's a mob. Now here's something that almost never makes it into the friendliest people conversation. How Filipinos treat other Filipinos. The crab mentality is not a stereotype invented by foreigners. It's a concept Filipinos use about themselves, pulling each other down rather than lifting up. It's documented in Filipino psychological literature and talked about openly in Philippine social discourse. Among Filipinos themselves, there's a quieter truth many recognize but barely say out loud. They're often warmer to outsiders than to each other, perhaps because emotional energy is reserved for family and close friends. The regional rivalries are real. Manila versus Visayas, Cebuano versus Tagalog, and yes, Negros versus Panay for my Negrense audience. Call it friendly competition if you want, but most of us know better. And again, I'm not making this up, in a lot of families and social circles, the moment you stop being financially useful, you stop being valued. Dress it up in, any family language all you want, but underneath, it's transactional. And the treatment of domestic workers, kasambahays, or maids, by their own Filipino employers is an entire video in itself. Suffice to say, it does not look like the friendliest people on earth. Now, before the comment section gets started, I want to be clear. I'm not saying Filipinos are unfriendly. I'm not saying the warmth is fake. I'm not saying this country is a bad place. I'm saying the story is more complicated and you deserve the complete story, not the tourism ad version thing. The genuine warmth that Filipinos show, the bayanihan spirit, the way strangers help each other after typhoons, the way an entire barangay shows up when someone is in need, that is real. And there are actually community pantries for jeepney drivers and tricycle drivers currently. That is real, that is beautiful, and that is something a lot of countries genuinely don't have. But the friendliest people on earth claim, applied as a blanket universal truth, ignores that it's largely measured by how Filipinos treat foreigners, not each other. That it's structurally influenced by colonial conditioning, that it's underpinned by cultural values that prioritize surface harmony over authentic expression, that it has a hard limit. Agree with us or the warmth disappears. I can love my culture and still tell the truth about it. Actually, I think you can only really do one if you're willing to do the other. So, are Filipinos the friendliest people on earth? We're friendly. Genuinely, often beautifully friendly. We're also complicated, sometimes insecure, historically wounded, and like every culture on earth, capable of both warmth and ugliness, sometimes in the same afternoon. And the surveys, back up the friendliness claim, but only the part that faces outward, toward foreigners in favorable conditions. Dig a little deeper, and it's a lot more human than the tagline suggests. If you've experienced Filipino hospitality at its best, I hope you treasure that. If you've also experienced the other side of it, I hope this video helped explain why. Drop your experiences in the comments, the real ones, because I want to hear them. This has been Dee. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye! And here's the critical. Biggest global survey. And relying on community. Often. Oy, Diyos ko, Lord. Country brigade is brigade. That prioritize.